Hi, welcome to Podcasting 101 Introduction to Podcasting. I'm your host, Teacher Jess, and today we're going to dive in to the ins and outs of podcasting. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce podcasting. Then we're going to talk about the types of podcasts. Then we're going to have time to brainstorm our potential podcast topics. We'll discuss how to structure an episode, and then I'll give you some time at the end for some questions and answers that you may have. So here we go. During today's lesson, we're going to define what a podcast is. We're going to identify the different types of podcasts. We're going to brainstorm and select a topic, and then we're going to outline the structure of a podcast episode. Okay, so what is a podcast? A podcast is like a radio show you can listen to anytime, anywhere. And it is usually a series of episodes where people talk about all kinds of topics, anything from books and games to science and stories. Now, you may be wondering, where in the world did the term podcast come from? Well, they started in the early 2000s when people began to use the internet to share audio recordings. Back then, you needed either an iPod or a computer to listen, so they were called podcast from the word iPod and broadcast. So we took pod from iPod, cast from broadcast, put them together, and that's how we got the word podcast. Now, why on earth did podcasts become so popular? Well, first of all, they're popular because anyone with a microphone and a computer can create a podcast, which is why we're here today to begin with. The second thing is there are lots of choices. So there are podcasts about literally anything and anything and everything. And so no matter what you're interested in, there's probably a podcast for it. And if there's not, guess what? You're in the right place where you can actually start your podcast. And then the third thing is that with podcasts, you can listen anywhere. So when you're doing other things like doing the dishes, doing laundry, cleaning your room, or riding the bus, walking your dog, as long as you've got access to it and you've got headphones on or you've got a speaker, you can listen to it. And podcasts today, now podcasts are everywhere and millions of people around the world listen to them. And there are even famous podcasts, as I'm sure some of your favorites, that people talk about as much as their favorite TV shows. So literally anybody can do this. So let's talk about the types of podcasts. All right. There's interview, which is a conversation with guests. So you have the host on, and they just basically ask questions back and forth between the different guests. There's also narrative. So storytelling, often in episodes. So they'll start with one topic and then just continue on to tell the story. Then there's solo commentary, which is just one person sharing their thoughts or insights about a specific topic. There's the panel podcast format where you've got a group of people who are all contributing their thoughts on a discussion or a debate about a specific topic. And then some podcasts are actually hybrid. So there are multiple formats. They just kind of mix and match depending on the topic and just the audience. So here are some examples of some podcasts you may or may not have heard of. So the But Why podcast is a great example of an interview. The Unexplainable Disappearance of Mars Patel is a narrative, so it's episodic. Solo commentary, Brains On. Move myself. Discussion and Debates Forever Ago is a great podcast. And then Story Pirates is a hybrid format because they mix and match depending on the subject matter and the audience for that particular episode. All right. So now we're going to take some time to brainstorm our podcast topics. Now, we're not locked into a specific topic, but we just want to narrow down the possibilities so that we really can have a niche, a focused topic for our podcast that we're going to be able to produce multiple episodes to share with our audience. So the things you need to keep in mind when you choose your topic are the passion that you have for this particular topic. Obviously, you don't want to include something that is very boring or something that is dull, or if it doesn't interest you, it's not going to interest your audience. Going on to the second thing, when you choose a topic, your audience is very important. Who are you talking to? Are you talking to kids your own age? Are you talking to adults? Are you talking to a different generation? Um, who is that audience and why should they listen to you talk about this particular topic? Then you've got your expertise. So you're thinking about something that you either know firsthand because you have experience with a specific topic, or it's something that you would like to thoroughly research to share with your audience. So make sure that you are very well rounded in your understanding of the topic and you're researched in what you have to share. Because obviously, your audience does not want to listen to someone who just has not taken the time to have a in-depth understanding of what they're trying to share in a particular episode. And then finally, the uniqueness of it. There is a saying in the business world that says niches get the riches, meaning that those particular topics that are very, very honed in, very specific, very unique and dialed in, those podcasts do better because you have that audience out there that is searching for it and they can't find it because it's very unique and very specific. So think about that podcast topic. All right, so during this session, what I want you to do is just take a piece of paper and you can write down your own interests or hobbies. These could be sports you like to play, books you like to read, movies you like to play, video games you enjoy, board games, etc., etc. Write down an interest or a hobby that you have. Then you're going to identify a potential audience. So, with these interests, who is your potential audience? Who would enjoy hearing a podcast about this topic? And then once you have your list down of your interests and hobbies and then the audience, we're going to narrow that down to a specific focus topic. So if you look in the course, there should be an assignment that will have brainstorming session, and there should be a handout where you can easily do this. So that way it's already right there. It's in a chart and it's in a grid format to make this so much easier as we decide to move forward.